sort of. Did anyone watch the game?
No.
I watched some of the second half.
I ended up just watching the Newport celebrations because I tuned in too late to even see the penalty shootout.
I saw Newport very, very almost bottling it, and then penalties. Newport did not look great.
No, they didn't, did they? They looked fucking horrible.
They're one of the favourites to go down, aren't they, from League Two?
I'm not surprised.
I can see why.
Barnet also looked crap for balance.
Yeah, as expected, I think.
Happy days.
Kane Smith missed the penalty. Thanks,
I
Kane.
mean, that's what you get if you
work.
send your right back up to take a penalty. Come on.
Good lad. Agent Smith. Just sleeper agent. Right, anyway, we won't piss around too much. Sorry. Welcome to Boropod, etc. Pat, hi.
Hello, how you doing? It's my favourite episode of the year where we guess stuff.
Yeah, and it's your favourite episode of the year because you get to just come in and basically banter for an hour and a half.
Last season, I tried to do it all properly. This season, I thought, fuck it. It wasn't anywhere close last year, so this year...
I'm sorry, no, you didn't. You put Birmingham being relegated. That's not proper. That's taking the piss.
I put them 19th.
All right,
I stand by it, even though it was totally wrong. I just missed the decimal place. I'll give me a break.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, all right, how you doing?
I'm alright. I was back to work this week after 2 weeks off, so holiday blues have kicked in.
Oh.
Other than that,
What do you do?
I'm an accountant for the NHS.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's hard work, isn't it? Fucking hell.
I work in projects though, so I do more exciting stuff than all the cost cutting. So
Shuffling around the debt, that sort of thing.
Can you, can you try and find some doctors a bit more fucking money? That'd be great.
Imagine if he was
Anyway.
a gigolo and you just dropped that question on him on stream. Surprise.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Nate.
2 weeks in a row, mate. What's going on?
I know. Don't get used to it.
No, we won't. We'll make the most of it while you're here.
I'm gonna need a holiday after these last two.
Well, yeah. So while we'll make the most of it by letting you go first on the old predictions. We're going to go through our predictions. This is the order it came out from our very scientific, super excellent formulas on Excel, where we've taken several predictions from the general media. We've taken several predictions from ourselves, mushed it all together. This is what comes out.
When you say several is basically all of us bar Pat in the formula, surely.
Well, no, Pat's in the formula.
thankfully, there's enough of us to outweigh him.
I didn't delete Pat this year. I deleted Pat's Birmingham prediction. I just completely wiped it from the slate.
Except every time we talk about it when it gets back up again.
Because we've mentioned it, but it didn't actually have an effect on the actual predictions because I couldn't leave it in because they were first until I plugged Pat's thing in and they dropped to like 12th and I'm like, I can't have it. I just can't have it. It's too
I'm sure
much.
there's none of them like that this year.
Well, they're not like your thing. I mean, I think you're putting. I don't want to go into too much into it, but you've put them last, and it's preventing them from being first.
You've obviously taken a bigger sample size this year, so I'm having less of an impact, and that's probably smart.
Do you know what? It's weird though. We haven't taken a bigger sample size because I had like 20 other fans from other teams provide us with predictions last season, and I've only got like 8 media people this year. But there's more of us doing it, so I don't. It's still not right, but I don't know. It hasn't affected it too much. But anyway, Greg, kick us off with number 24.
24 is AFC Wimbledon. I think we all, bar Pat, had them in the relegation zone. Nate, 24th, myself and Aaron both 23rd, and Nick also 24th. We also had Liam, who was supposed to be joining us, who's actually predicted them to finish outside, and he said 19th. But I think I was looking at their summer business, and there is some huge concerns with their squad. I think they've lost some key names. Josh, is it Nerfville, how we say his name, going to Bradford. I think it's a loss for them. He's someone who was a big part of their success last season. They also lost James Ball, which is a real shame, because it would have been hilarious to see him playing in League One. And in terms of incoming business, funny enough, I did my research before they then went and made two half decent signings this afternoon. One being Danilo Orsi, who, if he can recapture the form he had at Crawley, I think could be a decent pickup. But that's the only year.
I don't see it working, because Scott Lindsay's a very possession hungry manager. He wants to win the game by having the ball a lot, and that's not AFC Wimbledon. That's not their shtick. So it's a weird signing.
And it's the only year, that 1 year at Crawley, it was the only year he's actually had any kind of return. Everywhere else he's been, he's been pretty underwhelming. But we'll see what happens there. Hackford, they also signed today from Sheffield United.
Ooh,
I think he's a young forward, but I just don't see them scoring enough goals. Losing Goodman in goal, replacing him with Nathan Bishop from Sunderland. Don't see that as a major upgrade, but I mean, it's fine. And Steve Seddon also re-signing for them after a spell in Scotland. I think squad, they're just light, and they're going to need a strong end to the window. They've started with obviously those two signings earlier, but I think unless we see serious business between now and September, I think they will struggle. And I actually had them higher than 23rd until I was looking at their squad and thought, actually, yeah, they're in deep trouble. I thought they might continue their momentum, but I think bottom is where they will end up.
Well, there we go. AFC Wimbledon last. Pat, it's you.
I know. Thought you were introducing these. All right, 23rd, we have Burton Albion. We have no faith in them collectively. I have them ranked lowest at 23. Liam has them ranked at 17. And, they've been in the league since 2018 at this point, but their highest finish is 15th. They've been 20th the last two seasons, teetering on the brink of relegation. And last season, they only stayed up thanks to a massive great escape once they brought in Gary Bowie, who turned them around, arrived in December. So he's starting his first full season. Their top scorer last season was sold to QPR. They've lost players like Roman Burrell, Ryan Sweeney. Ryan Burrell's the goal scorer. Sweeney departed after 45 league games last season. They've lost some midfielders in Watt and Bennett, who were first-team regulars. They've lost their starting keeper, Crocombe, from last season. Some fringe players out the door as well. Bud Varson and Bowden have a lot of league experience. And when you look at who they brought in, Fabio Tavares, 2 goals in 10 games in League One last season. Jake Beasley, 2 goals in 25 appearances last season. Jordan Amisar is a potential new keeper from the Scottish Prem. It's a team that looks like it's got worse over the summer, and it was right on the edge as it was. And it's going to take a lot from Bowyer to keep them up this season. Average squad age 24.6, and they're the 5th youngest in the league, and they've got a squad size of 31, which is the largest in the league, and that again feels like a recipe for trouble. We saw Bolton really struggle with those sort of stats previously.
Yeah, and but teams that flirt with relegation season after season after season don't often, sort of do a Stevenage under Steve Evans and go the other way, do they? We've seen Cheltenham do it recently. They dropped. We saw Shrewsbury do it and drop last season. It's not a recipe for success, is it?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look like they followed last season's big cash injection with a doubling down on that to take them forwards, which is not a good idea.
Yeah.
22nd. Northampton Town. I think all of us, bar Pat, who for some reason has got them in 5th, have got them in the relegation zone for this year. when I first started looking at them, I summarised them up with the admin teased an Irish signing, with all their fans expecting they were going to sign Dara Costello on a permanent, only to announce Conor McCarthy from Barnsley. I think that probably sums up their window so far. Very much the makings of a League Two side. Well, I think Nolan is a very good coach and kind of showed spells of it back with Notts County a few years back. Their business has been pretty unconvincing. The only real attacking threat, if you can call it a threat, they've added is List from Stevenage, who I think we all agree probably isn't up to League One quality. And defensively, they really lack pace. I mean, their defence is incredibly slow, and in a league where a lot of the top teams are really reliant on quick forwards looking into getting behind. Their current goalkeeper lineup is Burge and Fitzsimons, who they've signed this summer from Scunthorpe. It just isn't really good enough for the level. So I think if they avoid relegation, it'd be seen as a positive season, but I can't see anything other than them dropping down again into League Two.
Yeah, it's not a squad that fills me with any confidence. Okay, no one else either, apparently. Okay, 21st, we've got Port Vale. They had a really good season last year. Obviously, to get themselves promoted back into League One at the first time of asking. And what I don't think the strength of any of the four coming up are particularly exciting. But Vale have signed Rico Richards, Jordan Gabriel, Liam Gordon, who should be pretty good signings for the level, I reckon. And I'm not overly concerned about the players that they've lost either. I think they're fully replaceable if they can finish the window strong. Moore's a good manager, and I think they'll probably will just about survive. But I think the overall consensus here is well, I mean, they're 21st, so the overall consensus is that they're going to struggle, which is a shame because their Twitter admin's class.
Nice kit and all.
I can't say I've actually bothered looking at it.
Isn't it this year? Or was it last year that the retro sort of?
This
That's
year,
isn't it?
It's
all
year.
white, isn't it? Yeah. No, I think ordinarily looking at their squad in isolation, I probably would have picked them to just about survive. But when I look at the teams in and around probably being in that battle, I think they probably just fall short in comparison to some of those that we've got coming up. But yeah, I think they'll put up a good fight, that's for sure.
I had them to stay up but not pull up any trees. I think I'll put them 19th, which, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that was exactly where they ended up being. But I agree with you, Nate, in terms of none of the teams coming up fill me with dread. Like, there's no big spenders who are going to come in and just go and chuck loads of money at the league and end up being really, really competitive. But you always get one who end up using the momentum of going up and end up having a decent enough season. And I'm not sure Port Vale will be that one.
Yeah. Next up,
20th, Exeter City. Last year was their lowest finish since their promotion in 16th, and even the previous two, 14th and 13th respectively. Nothing to get too excited about, and it feels like this was a summer where they either were going to kick on or probably face the drop, in my opinion. They've made some interesting signings in a Finnish midfielder, Nick Niskasen. Jack Aitchison hopefully will be back fit for them this year. I know he had his injury troubles, as he always seems to do. And their top goal scorer, Josh McGuinness, is sticking around, so they'll be hoping for some more numbers from him. But I think they'll struggle this year. I can't see them escaping the drop again. They looked incredibly uninspiring when they came to us last year, and somehow managed to similarly turn it around in the same way that Burton did to end up in a 16th. But they looked pretty poor, and I don't think their additions have been that exciting this year either.
they're another team that sort of just seem to be on a bit of a plateau, and it'll be very easy for them to fall off from where they were last season. I haven't seen anything.
Caldwell's the one for me. I think he's like a cat with 9 lives. Feels like there's so many times you that you thought that he was going to get sacked, and he just doesn't seem to happen. I think he needs a good start to the season. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season for him.
Yeah. Next up,
Mansfield. 19th. Mansfield. So doing a little bit of research on Mansfield, and they're a team that I just don't feel like have strengthened too much. I think they didn't have a great end to last season. They're going to rely heavily on Will Evans for goals. I think we've got Dom Dwyer and Lee Gregory, who are both approaching the end of their careers, and neither player, I think, are going to fill that void. And so I think Evans is the one that's going to be the kind of key player for them. On the plus side, they have got an adult in goal now after Christy Kim moved on to Grimsby. So that's a bonus for them. But Nate had them at 19th, which is exactly where I think the overall prediction is. I had them 21st. I think there's a very good chance they go down. Aaron agreed with me. Liam, I think, is going to finish lower than that, 23rd. And Nick and Pat had them above the relegation zone at 18th and 15th, respectively. I think it's going to be a struggle of a year for them. Again, unless there's some business done between now and the end of September. Nigel Clough's a good manager at this level. He'll definitely make them competitive. But I think they, as it currently stands, the only business they've done that I've liked is Noyle from Stockport is a decent right back. Not convinced on Luke Bolton at all. From what we saw of him when he was at Salford, didn't really do a great deal. He signed from Wrexham. And above and beyond that, the squad just doesn't look like it's going to be pulling up any trees. So I'm expecting a bit of a struggle for them this year. I think they might have enough to stay up, but wouldn't be surprised if they get dragged into that relegation battle.
Yeah, I think for me, them surviving is more an indictment of the teams that are dropping than praise for Mansfield. I think they'll survive purely based on the fact that there are some other real dross teams.
Very much surviving with 4 teams being worse than them rather than them being better.
Mm-hmm.
They hit some really poor form back end of last season, didn't they? They started really strong and then went on this horrible run. So that's going to be important for them in terms of how they start the new season, and it not being in the vein that they ended the last one. Otherwise, like you say, I think that could be a sign of what's to come if they start poorly.
Yeah. On to 18th, Patrice.
Yes, so in 18th we have Bradford City, promoted in 3rd place last season. It was the 6th season in League Two, and Graham Alexander Henry's 3rd season. We had them ranked between 23rd, which was Nate, thinking they'll go straight back down. Most people thinking they'd be in that kind of lower teens range. Me and Liam a bit more optimistic, putting them 10th. Looking at the business they've done over the summer, they retained all of their top scorers from last season, which should help you maintain your promotion momentum. They did lose their top appearance maker, but he's a defender in his mid-30s, Smallwood, so I guess they maybe thought he didn't have the legs for League One and chose to move on. Likewise, Jack Shepherd was on loan from Barnsley last year, made 48 appearances. He's not coming back, so that might be a miss. But they brought in players like Stephen Humphreys, also from Barnsley. He had 9 goals, 3 assists in 41 appearances last season. Will Swan joins them after 42 appearances, including 7 goals and 4 assists. So they've stacked that team full of league veteran players with great experience. Best name in the league, Max Power joins them from a season in Aarhus in Denmark. And defensively, they brought in 4 veterans as well. Ibor Torre had 50 games for Stockport last season. Matt Pennington played 29 for Blackpool. Joe Wright from Kilmarnock. And Curtis Till, who played 41 times for Salford last season. So they've got the second oldest squad in the league and the second largest squad in the league, which pros and cons of that. Like, you've got good resilience to the damage that a league season can do to you, and you've got the nous to see through a long league season, but you don't want players getting frustrated that the prime years of their careers are being wasted on your bench and off the squad. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that over the course of the season.
I think they've definitely recruited the best out of the teams promoted. I had them higher a couple of weeks ago, and then seeing business from other teams has, I think, knocked them down in my view. But I had them up in that kind of 10th to 12th initially, because, like you say, that their signings are for the level. They've not taken a huge amount of risk in going for League Two players or those that have been out of the league for a while. They've gone for that experience and relying on that to see them through their first year back in League One. So I like the style of their business. It's just whether it pays it off for them.
I think 10th is insane, but
Time will tell.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's going to be someone that's you like at the end of the season. You look at it, it's like fucking hell. How has that happened? Hopefully that's us, and it's because we're really high. But I think I think I put Doncaster Rovers comfortably ahead of Bradford. Yes, I did. But I almost think that Bradford are more boom or bust, whereas I think Donny will be safe and unspectacular. And I think Bradford probably have a higher ceiling, but their floor is a lot lower. Yeah, moving on to 17th.
Nice segue.
And speaking of Doncaster, that's exactly where we've put them as 17th.
Why does it keep going? Sorry, it keeps going up at the top, even though I've set it to not do that, and it's demoting. Sorry, crack on.
I think we put them in and around similar positions. I mean, Nate, Greg, Aaron, myself, Liam all going for 16th to 18th positions. Pat's got them up in 13th, which I don't think is too wild based on their business. But I think summer additions were really important for Doncaster this year after coming off the back of a title-winning season last year. And they've actually kept a core of that squad as well. So additions in goal with Timmy, who we had on loan for a handful of games. We will not talk about his mistake in pre-season, but generally a solid goalkeeper for the level. They've signed a Jai from Spurs on loan, who's a very exciting addition. Fun fact, he scored in Europa League last season, so I don't think many League One clubs can say they've got a European goal scorer. And then Hanlon signed for them after a spell with us at the back end of last season. And although he didn't really get numbers for us or for Wickham, he's definitely a player that can facilitate those around him. And so it'll be interesting to see how he does in that Doncaster side. While I doubt that they will be many people's kind of dark horses this year, I think they'll very likely avoid a relegation scrap. And they'll be pushing for kind of top half next year, I can imagine. McCann's a solid coach. He's now got proven experience at both League One and League Two level. So I think they can come into the season fairly confident of staying in the division.
They have got one thing in particular that I think could be their downfall. And his name's
Stadium?
No, his name's Zane Westbrook. I mean, how that guy's playing at League One level, I will never know. But
there's time. There's plenty of time.
I think Matty Pearson's a great pickup for them, though, in terms of experience at the back. And when he was at Huddersfield, who played Championship level and has always been very, very good. So I think that's a great pickup for them.
Cool. Yeah. 16th. Of course, it's gone up the top. It's Peterborough. I can't be able to stop it. It's Peterborough United. I put them 16th. Pat has them in the boozy third. Greg 18th. Aaron 17th. Nick 19th. Liam 16th. They're absolute dogs last season. After they made it out of the playoffs. They made it into the playoffs, but didn't go any further the season before. Darren Ferguson isn't the sort of manager you want, I think, when you've got a questionable squad. I think he'll do a really good job most of the time with a class squad. But when you're sort of on the ropes a bit, I think he's gonna struggle to get players going. They've lost Poku, Cipriani, Mothersill, Fernandez. Others I can't right now remember the names, but they have not really improved in any of those positions. Frith comes in as a direct replacement for Poku, and Brandon Kaler is a good signing. And they do have some good players coming through. Some of the players like Chris Clark, who who are already there are kind of, they've been kind of understudy position for some of the other players that have now left. It's something that Peterborough do a lot, and they do usually pretty well. So I just think for one or two of those, well, no, for more than one or two of those players, it might become a season too soon for them to really pull up trees. They're not completely safe. I've got them 16th, but I don't think they're far from having an absolute howler and dropping. But if they do, they'll be odds-on favourites for League Two next season because they'll be way too strong for that division. Way too strong.
I think the only way they go down is if they have a second half of the season howler, and because I think if it gets to January and they're struggling, they'll go and spend, and they'll go and do business in January, and that might end up being enough for them. It might not. Who knows? But I think there's no way that McAnthony is gonna not do everything in his power financially to make that squad good enough to stay up. Because it is. I put them 18th, but they are very much on the cusp of being on that relegation battle, and I think it'd be quite close down the bottom end of the table. So I think they're well within it right now.
I think that's exactly the reason I've kind of stuck them just outside. Is if they hit January and they're in trouble, they've got resources to at least try and get out of it. And I can't see the four teams that will inevitably finish kind of below them at the bare minimum being able to do the same. I mean, they've made millions off of players over the last 2-3 years, so it's certainly there for them to spend. I'm surprised they haven't spent it so far this summer, really. But I'm sure if they hit January, like you say, and they're in a precarious position, they'll buy their way out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hopefully not, but it'd be nice if they drop. Anyway, 15th.
Stevenage. So I think that we had a bit of a varied range when it comes to predictions between us. So Liam has us as high as 8th. Nick has us just sneaking into the top 10. Aaron in at 12th, as well as Nate. Both think that we're going to finish 12th, and then Pat 14th, and I've said 15th. And somehow that's averaged out to 15th, which I appreciate. Yeah, look, I think so. Some of the notes here around the squad. I mean, look, we've already talked about some of the signings. I think on paper it is one of the strongest squads we've ever had, both in terms of experience, but also some of the younger players that we've brought in this summer that I think could definitely be big factors in the squad. I said this last week, but the biggest thing for Stevenage this season is where the goals are going to come from, and can we score enough goals to make sure that we're comfortably away from trouble, but also maybe to be knocking on the door of playoffs. I don't think that that's impossible, but it feels like a squad that mid-table is in the right place. And then just a couple of notes. Obviously, a new goalkeeper coming in this week, Philip Marshall. After a year's experience with Crewe, young keeper, signed from Aston Villa, has big shoes to fill after a good year from Murphy Cooper last year. But it feels like a squad that has been built very much for the level, but also for the style that Alex Revel wants to play. And there's a lot of excitement, I think, in the fan base that this isn't. Even though we've got us at 15th, this could be a hell of a lot better. We are probably realistically could be anywhere, in my opinion, anywhere from sort of just outside the playoffs to 15th. Louis Appere leaving yesterday as well. We haven't mentioned that yet. Going to Cambridge for an undisclosed fee. So interesting to see who fills that void, because it's definitely a spot that we need. A lot to talk about Britta Sombalonga, but who knows which direction we'll head into there. And then Liam made a note around Tyrese Simpson. Thinks we're a shoo-in for the playoffs, which is a bold opinion, but who am I to question Tyrese Simpson?
I think if everything goes right, there's no reason they can't be fighting for the playoffs. The risk we're running as a team is we've got a lower total wage budget than a lot of sides at this level. So we're trying to pay comparable wages by having a really small squad. And that runs the risk of attrition over a League One season. And if we see the sort of thing we saw last year, where we lost a load of centre-backs and were really light there at times, and then we lost a load of midfielders and were really light there at times, that's when you run into trouble. So if all thing goes well and you get lucky on the injury front, then fine. But you could have a lot of adversity if it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think as important as league for us this year is how we do in the cups. A good cup run and finishing 14th, 15th, I think is still a decent enough season. If we're not going to see another kind of cup run that we've seen in previous years, then you'd kind of want us to be pushing for that top half, 12th and above, really, to progress on last year. But it's I think Wallace said it at the evening the other week that it really is a division of two leagues. That top 12 and bottom 12, you can really split down the middle, and I think we'd be doing well if we scraped back into that top half this year.
14th. You're on mute, Nate.
Yeah, what I was saying was you're right. It's almost like the top sort of 8, 9, 10 are championship sort of championship 2 almost, and the rest are League One. And I think that it'd be nice if we could basically win League One by finishing 12th or something. It'd be great. Anyway, 14th, Rotherham United. This was actually one of the most difficult ones, and I think that's probably why I just stuck them in the middle and hope that no one even pays attention. They look. I mean, they've from a squad perspective. I mean, they've picked up a couple of really useful players in Benson and Gore. Gore in particular, I think is highly touted as a good young player. But the rest of the squad is a very aging squad. I'm not expecting them to really challenge. I think they're also 3 or 4 players away from being ready for this season. And then I mentioned around the kind of from a goals perspective. I mean, it feels to me, if you look at the squad that they currently have, a lot of the weight falls on the shoulders of Sam Nombe, who had a good year last year. I think has proven himself to be a decent League One player, but it feels like right now there's been a few good signings, but they're well off where competing. And I think 14th, even though a few of us had them slightly higher. Pat had them at 9th, Aaron 13th, Liam 12th, Nick 17th, as low as that. And then myself and Nate both agreeing with 14th. I think that's probably end up where they'll be unless there's some serious business done on their side. And I'm not sure financially they're in a position to go and chuck loads of money at this league. So the yo-yo has ended. I think it's definitely going to be mid-table obscurity for a couple of years and a rebuild in the next year or two. Yeah, they're one of the most uninspiring teams in the league, aren't they?
Massively.
I mean, it's fitting for the place as well.
They've got a new manager in Matty Hamshaw, who in his day was a really exciting attacking winger, though. So they'll be hoping they can mould themselves in that image and bring some glamour back to the game.
Teddy Sheringham was an absolute worldie of a striker in his day, and he was a fucking useless manager. Don't always follow, does it?
No,
I don't think they're anywhere near trouble. I don't think they'll be anywhere near that relegation zone. But they are just going to be one of those teams. They'll win one, they'll lose one, and that will be their season constantly. I think 14th is probably the best place for them realistically, because I think this season coming, or next season I should say, when they clear out a few more of those older players, they'll be rebuilding for sure.
Yeah.
So moving on to 13th, we've got Lincoln City, and between us we have them ranked from 11th, which is Nate, down to 21st, which is me. Liam and I have them on the fringes of relegation. Everyone else has them comfortably in mid-table. It's their 7th straight season at this level, after 11th place finish last season. So they've really established themselves as a solid kind of mid-table to top half outfit under Skubula, who's entering his 3rd season in charge. But they've lost their young centre-back who led them in appearances last season, Sean Ruffin. Huddersfield poach him and take him on. Paddy O'Connor heads to Reading after 45 appearances last season. Erahan has gone to Bolton, and we've waxed lyrical about him on several occasions. So they've lost some really key pieces and some experience in Sam Clucas, who didn't play much last season, but he's been around the leagues for years. He's headed to Shrewsbury. And they've been very limited in who they brought in. Sonny Bradley joins after 30 appearances for Derby last season. He brings some veteran experience. But apart from that, Riley Towler joins from Portsmouth. Didn't play much of them last year. And then it's mostly like youth academy graduates. So that's why I had them ranked lower than average in the group, I think. Just concerns about the calibre of the players they've lost and whether they've replaced that well enough.
Yeah, they were defensively fairly solid last year, but having lost O'Connor and Ruffin, now, I mean, who's telling what they'll look like? Sonny Bradley looked very solid at Wycombe, and I think Wycombe were disappointed to lose him. But I think they'll be fairly uninspiring this year.
Since they went on that tear at the end of the season before last, one of their biggest problems has been scoring goals. And I think they had Taylor. Was it Taylor from Luton on loan?
Joe
went on
Taylor.
a crazy run. But I think they're going to be comfortably mid-table again. But I actually had them way higher until, again, I looked into what their squad currently looks like and did a bit more research. I had them sort of flirting with 8th, 9th. But that's, I think, looking back at a couple of good years that they've had. I do like Scabala. I think he's a good manager. But that squad, I don't really see where the goals are. I don't think James Collins is the answer to that question. Defensively, they've lost some key men, like you Pat has just said. But I think they're going to be comfortably mid-table. I don't think they'll be flirting with any kind of relegation.
They shut their T-bar at the end of half time, so they can go down for like a
travesty.
Shocking. And let's move on to 12.
12, Wigan Athletic. We have generally there's a bit of a divide. I mean, I've got them up in 8th as the highest of the 6 of us putting our predictions in, and then Pat's got them as low as 19th. They scored the least amount of goals in the entirety of League One last season. But equally, they had the joint third best defence. So they were really one of those sides that if you were trying to watch a Wigan game for goals, you certainly weren't getting any. The appointment of Lowe in March indicated a bit more of a shift in terms of their ambition. I think Maloney very much felt like let's settle after a storm that they had with ownership. And Lowe feels a lot more like they have some ambition to go and kick on now. As I said, they needed goals, evidently, and they've added 3 forwards in Costello, Sadie and Mullin. But I think the overarching question mark over those 3 is actually, can they get the numbers? Mullin has probably had a difficult couple of years at Wrexham in the EFL. Costello done well when he was at Northampton last year, and Sadie hasn't exactly got numbers for Portsmouth in the last couple of seasons. So it'll be very much as to whether they can keep that defensive solidity and combine that with some goals this year. I've got them as a late playoff push and just missing out. But I can easily see if those numbers don't come from those forwards that they dropped right down the other end where Pat's got them.
Yeah, I think they're putting a lot of pressure on Mullin, and I don't think he's been at that level of scoring. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years or so. I don't think he's necessarily the answer unless, it's a hell of a turnaround if he is. But I put them in 12th, which is where I think the average end up being. But they are definitely a team that could sneak up that league a bit more. There's a few others I put ahead of them that could drop, and I think 12th is pretty much where I ended up sort of leaving them. I expect them to be solid defensively still. I think Lowe is a good appointment for them. A guy who's relatively local, had success at this level with Plymouth. I'm fully expecting him to go and do a decent job down there. But the expectation for them this year, I'm sure from their fans' perspective, is that they want to be competing and at least make the playoffs. I think it'll be a struggle for them to make those playoffs unless Paul Mullin goes and scores 30 goals this year, which I just don't think he will. I think his days of scoring goals have gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's quite limited as a striker for League One level. He didn't. He seems to absolutely crush League Two and then come up to League One and just be fine. Which I'd take fine, but for a team with that they certainly their fans believe they should be pushing on to get back to the Championship, he's not the kind of player that you need in that respect. And I have nothing else to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, Mullins' last spell in League One, bar Wrexham last year, was back in 1920 with Tranmere, where he scored 3 in the league. He jumped ship from Cambridge after their promotion to go to Wrexham in the National League. So he's never really been proven at this level, and this feels very much like the final hurrah for him. Either he does it, or I think he's going to be dropping right back down into the National League realms from next year.
Good. Next up, we've got Orient. Wellens is a very, very good manager, but he's also a complete and utter prick. So it's difficult for me to put them too high. But also, there's no way they're going to struggle this season. They did have a great year last year. They started slowly. I think mid to late September they were in the relegation zone, and then they just went on an absolute tear that lasted a fucking age. Literally the rest of the season. I just think it'll be tough for them to repeat it with making the playoffs. They are getting as far as the playoff final, and albeit losing. They've lost Josh Keeley, Jack Curry, Ethan Galbraith, Jamie Donnelly, Charlie Kelman, who I think was the only player in League One to hit 20 goals, more than 20 last season. They have signed Idris El Mazzini, Aaron Connolly, Dimitri Mitchell, and they are good pickups. Just don't think that they've got better. There's still time in the window, obviously, which I'm sure they will look to improve still. But I think in terms of replicating success of a previous season, you have to have some sort of continuity. And Wellens, by and large, is the only. Not the only, but he's the consistency there, isn't he? It's really difficult to sustain quality football with turnover of that size. They're going to be well safe of relegation, but I just don't think they're going to trouble the playoffs this year. However, next year, if they can avoid massive turnover again, assuming things don't go tits up behind the scenes, or Wellens is poached, I think they'll have a good crack at it next season. I think this season is going to be a sort of try to stay afloat and not sink too low. But I think they'll be fine.
I think that is their biggest risk is Wellens jumping. I think if he gets a bigger club that come knocking, there's every chance that could happen. I'm probably a little bit higher on them than you are. I think, yes, they've lost some very good players. I think they've also kept quite a few very good players and business they've done. I really like the signing of Michael Craig and Joe White as 2 midfielders. I think Joe White was a lot of good things talked about him when he was at MK Dons last year or the year before, whenever it was. I don't think it's as strong a squad as it was last year. But I see them being there or thereabouts. So I think I put them at 9th, which wouldn't surprise me if they did end up finishing there, to be honest with you. I definitely don't think they'll be lower mid-table or anything like that, unless he does jump ship, which is I wouldn't be surprised if that right job came along, either a big League One side or a Championship side. There's every chance he does that.
Yeah, they've had a couple of warnings now, haven't they, with him being linked to clubs, and they've managed to escape that just through their own success, I think, more than anything. But their turnover isn't just kind of general turnover. It's some of the key players that racked up the largest number of appearances for them last year. So it is we're going to be seeing a very, very different Orient side going out to start games, and I think while Wellens is a very good manager, I think that natural cohesion is really important when you're looking to kick on after a decent season. So I see them falling off. I don't see them falling drastically off. But I think that they'll be a comfortable mid-table side.
Cool. Yeah. Let's move on to 10th.
Yeah, getting up to the lofty heights now. We have Barnsley in 10th.
Sorry, can you say it properly, please?
Barnsley.
Thank you.
No problem. We have Barnsley in 10th. We have them pretty much agreement within the group, ranking them 9th to 13th, except for Liam, who has the 3rd. And I think the reason
mental,
he
by the way.
hasn't...
Absolutely mental.
Well, he's obviously got a crush on Murphy Cooper, and that's fine. They've signed him best goalkeeper at Stevenage since Chris Day. And yeah, if he wins that starting job, he'll give them the same solidity that he gave us last season. And then that was a big part of us doing what we did. So yeah, they've got a good platform to build on under Conor Hourihane, who took over the managerial reins last March. They've signed very veteran David McGoldrick at the ripe old age of 37, but he had a decent goal record at Notts County, still a pretty solid canny player. They've brought in Neil Farrugia, who sounds like a place in Iraq, from Shamrock Rovers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of that comes together and whether they can turn it into the promotion push their fans want, or whether they'll be sinking in the middle of mid-table, which is kind of what we're expecting.
I think the biggest wild card with Barnsley this year is Conor Hourihane. Like when you got a young coach like that, Barnsley are a decent sized club for they're a big club in League One realistically. So there's going to be always expectation. He will be probably the biggest factor of whether this team ends up making the playoffs or competing to that level. I put them in 10th because I think they're on paper the squad's decent. I'm not convinced on David McGoldrick signing at all, not just because he's an old man, but I just don't think he's going to score the goals at this level. But they're definitely a side that'll be there or thereabouts in the mix of the playoffs if Conor Hourihane gets it right.
I just thought they looked a bit naff last year. Have they really added significant amounts to propel them that much higher? I don't think they have. Like you say, I mean, there's a lot of inexperienced young managers in the league this year, especially at some big clubs, and Hourihane at Barnsley is one of them, who I think he will do a decent enough job. I just can't see it being as inspiring as others to really push them up into the top half.
Yeah, I mean, I had them 9th. I think it's another team that are sort of on a little bit of a plateau. I don't think they've got better. I don't think they've got worse. I think they'll do largely what they did last season, which I'll be fine with because we won twice against them. And I mean, I think the home win against them was it 3-0 or?
Yeah, that was early on in the season, wasn't it?
Absolutely battered them and made them look really, really average. So one of those again would be great. Let's push on 9th.
9th, Reading, quite varied in the responses, and I say varied because Pat thinks they're going to finish 18th. Everyone else has them.
Understandably, because it's been an absolute clusterfuck at Reading for several years. But I think it's all sort of settled, isn't it?
Yeah, I think,
at least.
Look, the one thing that I am worried about with Reading, and when I say worried about as a Stevenage fan, not as if I was a Reading fan, is they had a very, very young squad last year that has gathered a year of experience, but they've got some very, very, very good young players that they've been able to keep hold of so far, which I think is huge. O'Connor coming in from Lincoln, the centre half, gives them, I think, really good experience as well to help those younger players. Finley Burns has come in on loan from Manchester City after a year in the Championship. I think as a League One player, I think he'll be excellent for them. And
he's
look,
really ready for it, isn't he?
Yeah, I was a big fan of him when he was at Stevenage, and obviously he was playing in a system where he was holding midfielder in a Steve Evans team, yet still looked a class above. And I think playing in this Reading team, the wild card, I guess, is similar to Conor Hourihane is Noel Hunt, and whether he's the right man who will take them. I think they had Sales, the Spanish guy before, who was very, very good, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But I think the biggest wild card of all for them is their ownership situation. And now that is sorted, I expect them to go and do some business between now and September, and probably again in January if they're not far off the playoffs, to help strengthen this team. I've got them in at 6th. Aaron, Nick, and Liam all said 7th. Nate has them in 8th, and Pat has them in a lofty 18th. So,
I had them at one point as high as 6th, and at another point as low as 15th. They've changed more than anyone else, and I have no idea. So I sort of wish that I put them 12th.
I mean, it looks like it looks like they're going to lose Harvey Nibbs to Charlton.
It's a
before the end of the
massive, it's
window.
a massive loss. Nibbs
Yeah.
is fucking class.
So how they replace him will be very telling as to whether we would all still put them in the 6th to 8th, or whether we see them drop off. Because that is a massive loss if he ends up actually making that move to Charlton. But
late in the window for it as well, isn't it? Like, if that's going to happen, you want it to happen right at the start, not like a week before the season starts.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm not going to say I like Reading because I don't like Reading. But I like how
there's a lot to like. There's a lot of likes about their squad, though, isn't there? There's a lot.
There is a lot to like about their squad, and I think they were definitely one that I feel if I was a Reading fan, I'd feel very optimistic going into this season.
I'm not as optimistic about the fact we've got to play him on a Thursday night.
Oh, thanks, Sky.
Cheers, Sky.
Let's move on quickly from that.
All right. 8th, Wycombe Wanderers. I have them ranked highest at 4th. Liam has them ranked lowest at 14th. Most people have them around 11th. They are in their 5th consecutive season at this level, and they've never finished lower than 10th. So, history suggests that Nate and I should be in the correctest ballpark. But you look at what happened last season. They had a sort of near miss with promotion, but a late season collapse when Bloomfield left to join Luton Town. Mike Dodds took over and they dropped. If that drop continues, they could be in some jeopardy this season. So you can see the arguments for them being their worst League One season finish in this portion of seasons they've had in League One. They retained their 2 top scorers from last season in Kone and Udo, although Bez Lavala matched those 10 goals and is here. So we'll be hoping he can bring some of those along. They also lost Sam Vokes, who gave some veteran presence in that forward line, although was featuring less at this late stage of his career.
Didn't bring him much, though, other than experience today.
No, quite. Yeah.
But that presence can be good.
Yeah. Hanlon moves to Doncaster, having been on loan here for the second half of the season. They also lost Joe Lowe, who was a big part of that defence. He's another player snaffled by Huddersfield. They lost their main keeper from last season, who heads to Blackpool. So there's a lot of players gone out. They also had Cameron Humphreys on loan, who scored 7 in 48. They'll miss him. He's back at Ipswich. To replace some of that, they brought in James Tilley from Wimbledon, who had a good season in their promotion run last year. Junior Quaterna's a player I remember from when Crawley played us, who looked like a threat going forwards. They brought in a guy from St Mirren who had 30 appearances in the Scottish Prem last season. A fella from Belgium's top division, Ewan Henders. So they've been casting the scouting nice and wide in this off-season. Bradley Fink comes in from FC Basel in Switzerland. Jamie Mullins joins from Brighton's youth setup. So they've cast a wide net to try and recapture some of that promotion magic from last season. Whether they can achieve that remains to be seen, because the trajectory they're on at the end of last year was ropey.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really difficult for them to replicate the good that they did last season, for the same reason I think Orient are going to struggle. Squad turnover is pretty sizable, and all of the players they left, well, not all of the players they left, but a large chunk of the players that have gone are some of their better players. They've certainly done better than Orient in keeping the likes of Kone and Udo, but I think that I don't rate Dodds. I think he's a dragon. I think he's a dinosaur, and he's going to struggle to do anything decent at Wycombe. and I put them 7th, and I'm looking at it going, why the fuck have I done this? There's a whole honestly, I think I should have put them about 15th or 16th. I really think they'll fall off, and I'm going to enjoy it.
At one point, I had them 17th about a week or so ago. I think I decided I was maybe being a little bit too harsh, but similar to you, I don't rate Dodds at all. I didn't when he was caretaker manager at Sunderland, and there is still a high chance that Kone could be off. And I think if that happens, they will really capitulate.
Yeah, I think Kone is definitely a big factor, and I think at some point, if the money's right, I can see even a team like Luton coming in for him again and just throwing a load of money. They've got the parachute payments to pay for it. So I think, but Mike Dodds, I fully expect will be gone by October, and then it's a case of who do they bring in, and that's why I put them 11th. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the bottom half necessarily. It's just how long do they give Dodds? If they let him go early enough that they can bring someone else in, then they might go off and do, that 7th place is not impossible all of a sudden. But if they hold on until after Christmas, New Year, it will be too late for them to make any kind of run. Because I do not think he's the answer at all.
I see them doing something similar to how we've kind of spoken about Peterborough. I mean, they've got very good resources with their new owner that they got in recently, and so they spent quite heavily in the January just gone, in the hope that would see them through a promotion charge.
Yeah, it was a lot of just sort of slinging enough shit at a wall to see what would stick for it, wasn't it? They did the Burton Albion approach, and it didn't work particularly well. So it'd be really interesting to see what direction they go if it doesn't work this summer's shit flinging. Right, let's move on to 7th.
7th, Bolton Wanderers. Myself and Liam have them as high as 4th. Nate's put them in 6th. Greg 7th. Aaron 8th. And then Pat has stuck them in 22nd. In the relegation zone. I think they're probably, if there's one team that had a really disappointing season last year and have therefore kind of come into this year going, no, we mean business, we want to push on. I think Bolton kind of encapsulates that with the business they've done. Ericson, the latest signing from Lincoln to bolster that midfield.
Fucking yeah,
quality player.
It just fits in Bolton so well. It's really irritating.
And then add that they got Xavier Simons from Hull, who was at Wickham last year, in a very strong Wickham side, and then they've added in that forward line with Sam Dolby after Collins departed for Milton Keynes Dons. And equally, I think their departures have been as telling as their additions in the way that Schumacher's approached this year. I mean, we saw Ricardo Santos release. We saw some other players moved on. Southwood in goal moved on. So I think they've clearly shown a statement of intent this year. I can't see them falling any lower than playoffs as a bare minimum this year. And if they do, then they've had a really disappointing season, worse than last year, if they don't even manage to make the playoffs. But I think they're definitely one to watch for potentially even a late push for automatics if they get that form back that we've seen from them in previous seasons.
My only concern I have with Bolton is the goals. Like, I think Burstow on loan from Hull has never been a proven goal scorer. Dolby, is from Wrexham, again, not really a proven goal scorer. That's the only thing I would say is a concern. But I think the rest of their team is as strong as you're going to get. I think Thomason's a big miss for him. I can't remember where he went in the end, but he'll be a loss. Was it Wrexham? Yeah. So I think he'll be a loss. But obviously the guy from Lincoln, whose name's now escaped my brain as well, I think he's a brilliant signing for them. They'll be there or thereabouts, but I don't think they'll quite push automatics. I think comfortably playoffs.
I think the thing for me, the difference, I mean, obviously Aaron coming in is huge, but I think the main difference between them failing to do anything significant last season and then potentially doing it. I mean, I think I've only just got them squeaking into the playoffs, but I think they will be there. I think the difference is Schumacher. I just think as a manager, he's almost the perfect lad to come in and take a club that's underperforming, that should be pushing towards the championship with the size of the club, the size of the fan base, the resources available. If they're underperforming and not making a push towards the championship, he's just going to come in, right the ship, and get you there, isn't he? Because I think he plays good, solid football. It's not always the most exciting, but it's the sort of football that's going to get you results often enough, and that's all you need. It's all you need, isn't it? Struggled a little bit in the championship. So there's an argument for, can he do it that high where the division is fucking brutal, questionable, but League One he's mustard.
I think he reminds me of Jones, the Charlton, ex-Luton, in terms of he's got a style. It's not necessarily easy on the eye. It's not that sort of too expansive, but it gets results, but it gets results until you get to that point in the championship where the level is just that much higher. So it's a perfect appointment for them to get them back in the championship. Whether he'll then be able to kick them on from there we'll have to wait and see. But I think that I think they are just missing a goal scorer to be hitting automatics. I think playoffs is a good chance they'll make that.
Absolutely. Right. So for us into the playoffs as a whole, we've got Cardiff City making it. Obviously, they came down bottom of the championship. And from what I've seen on Twitter, their fans are ready to rip it up, start again. They think they're going to be shit again this season. Well, I'm not sure if they think they're going to be shit or whether they just think they're too good for this level. But either way, they hate the fact that they're in League One. I'll be honest. I looked at their transfer business and just sort of shrugged. The players
Have they done any?
Players, I mean, not a great deal, but a couple out, a few in. I do think the manager coming in is a good manager for this level. He's an exciting young manager that's going to get him playing some good football. But I don't know. It just seems there seems to be such shenanigans and nonsense going on away from the pitch with the rumours about takeovers and stuff that I don't think people could argue too much if we put them down as 13th, 14th. Who the fuck knows? They might win the league. They might finish 15th. Don't think they'll get dragged into a relegation scrap, but you just don't know, do you?
I think
it's reflected well in the fact that Greg's got them 4th and I've got them 10th.
I think the reason I put them 4th is because I was the same. The whole time I was thinking, this mid-table, I don't know, maybe top 10 if they're lucky. And then I looked at the squad they've actually got on paper. There are some very experienced championship players in that squad. You've got players and even players who have played at League One level before, like Ryan Wintle, who was at Crewe, very, very good midfielder. Alex Robertson is a very good player. They've got guys. I mean, even David Turnbull was playing for Celtic for years. There's players there that if they are, and my issue I have with Cardiff, and I've based this on the squad they've got right now and that squad performing. Obviously, they didn't perform last year, but dropping down into League One, I think there's a good chance there that they have a decent enough season. Maybe 4th is probably a little bit too high, but their ownership situation is the main wild card, and if they resolve that, it'll be a similar story as what we just talked about with Reading, and I think they'll have definitely a good January. They'll go and invest in the squad if they're in there or thereabouts, but there's some really good players in that squad, like Perry NG. Remember him at Crewe, was an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
There's players there that should be playing in the championship, or
they would be if they'd have actually done anything last year.
Well, precisely.
I think that's the thing, isn't it?
They're here for a reason. They massively underperformed. And I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with the theory of it, right? Like, you're right. Like, they've got some really good players that you would expect to do a job in the championship, but somehow this concoction of championship standard players turns out they are shite.
But there's a massive, massive gulf of difference between the championship and League One. I think
Absolutely.
they'll win enough
Absolutely.
games in League One.
Yeah.
They'll walk over enough teams in League One to maybe not 4th. Maybe I've got a bit too ambitious with 4th, but I do think they'll be comfortably competing for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, you put them up against Middlesbrough or West Brom or Ipswich, right, and they're going to get absolutely fucking ruined. But you put them against Exeter and Port Vale and AFC Wimbledon, and they're going to score a hatful. So I think in and around the playoffs is fair. I just don't see him. I don't see them challenging for autos at all.
No.
They're very unconvincing in terms of when you finish bottom of the Championship and you come into League One. Yes,
you don't really strengthen much.
You don't really do anything. It just doesn't really fill you with
goal,
much confidence. Yeah, I mean, we've seen teams like Rotherham do very similar, and look where they ended up last year.
The one difference between Rotherham, because you're right, Rotherham had a very uninspiring summer last season. The only real difference is that they haven't got Steve Evans coming to the season. They've got Brian Baron Murphy, who is an exciting manager who should get them, who should improve them.
Yes, I put them ninth instead of like 14th.
I like that they didn't just rush into an appointment either. They took their time to find the right guy, and I think that essentially plays well. But these preseason predictions are fucking nonsense, and none of it means anything, does it?
I mean, they've got that Select, I think it is. It's up front, 20-year-old forward who looks really good, and I think he will be their saving. He will be the one that if they project into that top half playoffs, he'll be the one that will score the goals that will see them get there. But again, he might be on the move before the window closes as well. So who knows?
Be interesting to see what part Eli King plays. Like a year in League One with us last year. Does he even play much for them? Is he a player that they look to build upon as a younger player? It'd be interesting because their squad is. We talk about experience, sure, but there's also age to that. I mean, apparently they've still got Callum Chambers. I thought he retired years ago. He should have, yeah. But I think it'd be interesting to see what kind of role someone like Eli King plays in what is going to be I think a tricky place. Like if you're half an hour into a game and it's not going well, that crowd will turn, and that is something that will be a disadvantage for them, certainly in the early phases if they're not having in good form. Because the Cardiff fans will just expect that this is League One, we should be pissing it. They'll expect that we'll just go and do what Birmingham did last year, and by that I don't mean spend 20 million on Adam Stansfield, but just blitz it. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, but I still think there's so much talent in that team. Like Alex Robertson in League One is crazy because that guy is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's like having Louis Barry, isn't it? Like it's that level of go away, you're boring. Anyway, we've spoken about them for more than enough. Let's move on to fifth, and it's Blackpool. I didn't write this. Liam, who was supposed to be here, wrote it, so I'll do my best, Liam, for you. With Messrs Bruce, Agnew, Clements, Dobby, and Banks, Blackpool must hold the record for the most Steves in their coaching staff. Their first fixture, Stevenage, of course. You couldn't write it. There's been a slight regression since relegation a couple of years ago with 8th and 9th place finishes, but they could easily be up there, like Honeyman, Horsfall, Peacock, Farrell, Fletcher are well-established names at this level, and even the Championship in some cases. Losing Jordan Rhodes shouldn't make an enormous difference. Steve Bruce is still delivering at this level, I think. But Liam's feeling is that the rest of the league will be too competitive. But he has put them down in 11th, whereas I've got them 5th. Pat is obviously a big lover of Blackpool Pleasure Beach because he's got the 2nd. Greg 5th, Aaron 6th, and Nick 5th. So we think they'll be in and around that playoff fight. And I think it's fair. Side note, I'm going on a Blackpool podcast that I've temporarily forgotten the name of tomorrow to preview the first fixture, and I'm just going to sit there and let them have it. I'm not at all because we don't do well there, so I'm going to be humble. But they're a good side for this level. I think some of their transfer business has been smart, although I think their goalkeeper from Wickham. No, I'm being harsh. He's not bad. He's just a prick.
They're hopeful.
They are hopeful. They're excited. Their transfer business has got the fans going. hang on a minute.
I
They've got a
definitely
squad
had
plan
them.
for the goal scorers. Why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, right.
Ennis retaining Ennis was massive for them in terms of from a forward line
Was
perspective.
it?
I think he does. I had them up in like third at one point, and then other business for other clubs knocked them down the pecking order.
Blackpool, for me, Blackpool have steadily climbed. Like I think I had them 12th originally,
Yeah,
and then they went up a couple, and I was like, oh no, I need to move Orient down. So then I think they've risen by default because I'm just moving other teams down more than I think Blackpool are going to be really exciting and are good. But I do think that, but somehow I was just like, I was too reserved about it. So they just sort of crept up because everybody else is, I think, is shitter.
yeah.
I think. Sorry, Nick.
Go on.
The biggest loss they've had is Rob Apter. I think he absolutely tore us a new arsehole in that game at the end of the season.
Yeah,
So,
it was horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, the only problem I have with Blackpool is I talk about goals. I've said this about 12 times with 12 different teams, but I mean, I think what's his name, Ashley
Fletcher.
Fletcher, that's the one. I mean, that guy's only going to get you 3 goals all season. So, who else is going to get you goals? That's definitely a question mark. But I think they've got a very, very solid League One side. I think George Honeyman's a very good signing for the level. Albie Morgan staying is good for them. I think there's some good players that they have in that team. And you mentioned Ennis. The goalkeeping situation is actually one I'm not convinced on. I think Ravizoli he was back up for Wickham for a long time and was never amazing. And I really do not like Peacock Farrell from, was it Birmingham, wherever he's gone from. Both those keepers are not convinced by either of them, to be honest with you. But the rest of their squad is very, very solid, and I think that's enough for them to be competing for sure.
I think they'll do all right regardless of the goalkeeping situation. I think the rest of the squad is good enough that they're not gonna have to. They could put any reasonable goalkeeper in, and they'll do fine. You know, we could have shifted Tay off to them, and they'd be like, "Yeah, this is cool. This is fine."
I mean, Ahikwe and Horsfall as a back two pairing at the centre back is probably one of the best you're going to see in the league, I think. So
they're not going to lose out on many duels, are they? Between them,
no, they're two very strong League One centre backs. So I think that will help them out in that goalkeeper department. That is probably why they haven't gone out for kind of trying to get a top 4 goalkeeper in the league, because they've put it into the defence instead. But yeah, I can see them being a real force this year.
I think they'll probably ship a few stupid goals, but they're going to score enough that it might not matter too much. Let's move on to 4th, because again, like Cardiff, we've spoken about them for too long.
Plymouth.
It's back to a ticker. Why not? Fucking idiot, stupid thing.
Plymouth Argyle. I think when I was looking at their business, I think Hardy and Randall both leaving a big losses for them. But the biggest concern when I looked at their squad was actually depth at the back. I think they were, last season, obviously in the Championship, they kind of shipped goals for fun.
Yeah.
And when you look at that squad right now, I feel like it's probably at least one centre half away from being competitive, and just not really convinced that squad is as strong as certainly as it was last time they were in League One. I think midfield, however, does look good. The guy from Bristol City, Benares, is, the biggest thing with him is him staying fit. I think he's had injuries constantly for the last 2-3 years, but for League One, very good player. Picking up Watts from Exeter is always funny, and also a very good pickup. And then Jamie Patterson coming in from Coventry, I still think he showed quality in the Championship last season. In small,
it's great signing.
I think that's a very, very good pickup for a League One side. I had them 8th purely for the reason I think they will be competing for a playoff place, and it will be quite close. But I don't quite think they've got enough unless they do some business between now and September. Nate had them 4th, Pat 6th, Aaron 3rd. Nick 6th, and Liam Dizzy Heights at the top of the league.
Yeah, that's crazy. The one thing you haven't mentioned, which I think is a massive thing, is that they brought in Tom Cleverley as manager, and I think the squad that a lot of the players they've kept, but a lot of the players that they've brought in really suit that kind of possession-based, or constantly trying to move the ball left and right and work your way into a dangerous sort of situation. I think the squad building has been really good, and I did have them higher initially. And the only reason they slipped down to fourth for me is because I think the top three have done remarkable business in the summer. But I think bringing Tom Cleverley in as manager is one of the best things they've done.
I was surprised he didn't get the job at Watford, to be honest.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, how they got rid of him is beyond me. I mean, he should be in
it's
the
Watford
Championship.
it's Watford,
Yeah,
and
well,
they're owned by absolute dregs, aren't they?
Yeah. Any other club, I think we'd be more surprised. But even then, I was surprised. But when they actually got rid of him, but he want to be in the Championship next year. So
Absolutely.
I think if it's a case of he's not getting the resources to sign the players he wants, I think it'll be not long before he gets a Championship job when someone falls into that bottom half in the Championship and they're looking for a manager. You're going to look at Cleverly, aren't you? Whether they're just waiting for the right kinds of people to finish off their squad. I really like the signing of Brandon Weiradu from Fleetwood. I think long overdue step up to League One personally for him. So I've got them in sixth. I think there's potential for them to climb a little bit higher with some other additions, but yeah, I do. I think part of that has come from just Cleverly being there. Otherwise, I probably would have had them down at eighth, where you've got them, Greg.
Right, let's move into the top three, starting with
Luton Town. Nate has them first. Nick has them first. Aaron has them second. Liam has them second. Greg has them third. I have them 24th, which is, I guess, why Nate assigned me this one so I could explain myself.
Do you know what? It wasn't fully deliberate, but I'm glad we have the opportunity to hear batshit reasoning.
Well, let's talk it through. All right. They finished 22nd in the Championship last season, and they only got that high thanks to a late season fight back. I think they lost twice in their last 10 games. They sacked their manager in January, brought in Matt Bloomfield, who we mentioned earlier, and I thought that was what marked their turn in fortune. But when I look back at it, Matt Bloomfield joined the club when they were 20th. Under his stewardship, they dropped to 24th, dragged themselves back to 21st, and then lost their last game 5-3 and dropped to 22nd. So he failed to keep them up and failed to improve their league position. Now, I don't know what the game in hand situation or anything was like at the point that he came in, but it wasn't all roses, but he's kept his job there. And we know he's a good manager at this level and can get clubs to the top end of this division. So I can see why they did that. As you would expect, they had a lot of player turnover in the off-season because, that's what happens for a lot of clubs to get relegated, although not consistently as we've gone through these teams. Colin Morris leaves, 8 goals in 43. Alfie Doughty scored 1 in 27. Asgard left. Veteran Victor Moses left. Pelly Ruddock moves on after a loan spell with Rotherham. So lots and lots of appearances out the door. Defensively, Amari Bell is now at Charlton. He played 33 times last season. Their starting keeper, Kaminsky, left. He played 47 games last season. In fact, it's a keeper exodus because Walton and Tim Krul and Horlick also all left. Ashioka left for Slavia Prague after 17 appearances last season. So they've had a real glut of players out the door. Josh Keeley comes in from the Spurs youth system to compete with James Shea for the goalkeeping job. They brought in veteran centre forward Naki Wells, had 10 goals and 4 assists in 43 appearances Bristol City last season. Corley Woodrow joins from Blackburn, not Blackpool, get your teeth in. He didn't play much last season. They've brought in youngster Gideon Kadua, who was on loan last season at Wickham from West Ham. So he's got some experience at this level already. They brought in George Saville, Jake Richards, Hakeem Adoffin to fill out the midfield ranks, who had a wealth of appearances last season around this level. Defensively, Cal Naismith joins also from Bristol City and Nigel Lonvike from Huddersfield. So they've really fleshed out that squad. And looking back at their history, their last season in League One was in 18-19, and they won the league. That was a season that earned them back-to-back promotions, coming up from League Two the season before. But the last time they came down from the Championship was 07-08, and in that season, they finished 24th. So they're a yo-yo on a really big string, Luton, and it's either win the league or relegated. There's not going to be much middle ground.
And you've just gone for the other side of it.
Goodness me.
Hope over expectation.
What I like about this is all your reasoning is sound, but the end result is absolute nonsense.
Like every maths exam I've ever done.
I just like a lot of the business they've done. Nothing's flashy. Naki Wells is a good signing. I think Corley Woodruff, if he can put a run of games together, should be good. I don't know much about Kadua, so fuck knows. But Saville, Richards, Duffin, I think for the Championship, I'd be like, but for League One, it's all fucking really solid. The only one I look at and I just think, fucking, why have you signed that donkey? Is Nigel Longwhite. He got made to look like a fucking right-old shit house by, I think it was Jamie Reid, who primarily played up against him at the Lemex last season. I just think Bloomfield will much like I said about Cleverley and Schumacher being the sort of managers you want to do a job at being. I just think he's he made Wickham look fucking superb, and second he goes, they tripped over their dicks, didn't they? So I think we will see him do a good job, and then probably leave with them 10 points clear at the top of the table, go to a championship struggler, he'll come back down, Luton will fall off.
I think that, or they're like 12th and they sack him, and then he takes someone else up and they plummet even further.
In that scenario, that could be how they finish 24th. It's just not going to happen, is it?
I think the squad is scary good. I'd be honest. I'd be amazed if this is the squad they have at the end of this window. I cannot see like a player like Isaiah Jones, for example. There's got to be 2 or 3 of the players that are currently in this squad that will get moved on, for whether it's money or whatever. Like someone like a Chong, for example, is way too good for League One level. So like Isaiah Jones, there's a long.
They've still got Adebayo as well.
Yeah, Adebayo, who I think at this level will actually score quite a few goals.
Yeah, I think he will. I'm not convinced about Chong. Like, he's a player that I keep thinking, he's good, but then every time I see him, he's absolute shit.
He's one of those players that I've only ever seen him play Premier League and Championship, and there's such a goal for difference. I think he'll smash up League One. I have absolutely no doubt.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, he'll fucking annihilate League One. But
Cal Naismith is probably the best bit of business they've done, though, in terms of someone who's experienced, someone who knows that football club. He's come in to be club captain. Like that for me is one of my biggest concerns with Luton when I was looking at them sort of prior was, they've just had back-to-back relegations. You're not going to turn that overnight. But bringing in someone like Cal Naismith, who can come in and say we're wiping the slate purely clean here, even though the squad is still largely the same, it feels like, I put them third. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they got automatics. If they keep this squad as it is right now, there's no reason that they should. I think anything less than automatics is disappointment for them.
We have to remember as well that they've got Premier League parachute payments that are keeping those coffers well and truly stocked. And if things aren't going particularly well by January, they could go and, there's loads of players in that squad right this second that should they become available in January, other League One teams are going to absolutely, potentially a few Championship teams will be chomping at the bit to get some of these players. They can go and replace half their squad and go on a tear the second half of the season. So I think they have, if it's not going well halfway through the season, they've got so many options. And that I think that's almost as scary as the squad that they've already got.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on, fuck Luton.
Second place, Huddersfield Town. I don't think there's any question that Huddersfield's business so far, and probably when the window closes, will remain the best business of the summer in League One.
Superb.
By an absolute long shot. They've added in every single bank of their team, quality and experience. Goodman in goal was a standout for Wimbledon last year. Early in the window, I had him on a list as a hopeful for Borough. That quickly faded. One of Lincoln's best defensive. Oh yeah, we got Tay. Sorry. One of Lincoln's best defensive assets in Rowan on a free, might I add. And then nabbed Wickham's best centre back in Low as well. Ridiculous. The one I think partway through the window that really,
and they got rid of Longwyke as well. Can we just
and they got rid of Longwyke.
chuck that in there?
I think the one signing that I looked at and I went, okay, they really mean business this year was Ryan Ledson from Preston. He has been a regular in the Championship for the past 7 seasons for Preston, in a relatively good Preston side. I know they've never kind of broke the bank and pushed right up into the Championship, but he's always been a solid midfielder for them, and that's a massive addition.
Yeah.
And then they went and splashed the cash on Alfie May, and
Yeah.
I think after added Alfie May into that, alongside still having Joe Taylor on the books as an attacking partnership, I put them in at second just because I think Luton's squad is absolutely ridiculous for the level. But I would not be surprised if Huddersfield ran away with it equally. The only question mark for me is Lee Grant as the manager in his first managerial role with such high expectations, with such a significant investment. No one really knows how he's going to do with that.
Pressure is on, isn't it?
Mm.
The top 3 for me, I've had them flipping, flopping all around. Like I've swapped them around so many times. The only real consistent for me is that I'm constantly disappointed that I haven't got Huddersfield first when I don't have them first, which I now don't have them first. I'm like, oh, should I have had them first? I just think I look at their squad and I'm just like, oh god, it's good.
I think the signing of Alfie May was the deciding factor on why I put them top, because I think he scored 16 goals last season in a Birmingham team where he wasn't starting regularly, and even when he was starting, he had so many other players scoring goals around him.
Yeah,
and
He wasn't on pens either.
No, exactly. So I think he's an unbelievable signing for them, but actually everything they've done just feels very, very sensible. It does. They're not doing what Birmingham have done in terms of, we're just going to go and sign players that will not just get us into the Championship, but then we can build upon there. They've gone and got players that realistically are going to get them out of this division. And someone like Harness coming in from Ipswich, very good for the level. Ledson, you talked about, Nick. I mean, the whole list. There's not a single one that they've signed where I'm like,
They might be the only team that has got better with every single signing in the league,
and across the board as well. It's not like it's not like they've gone just for the attack, just for the defense in every single area.
There are other teams in the league that have had really good windows. I mean, I think Stevenage have had one of the best windows in the league. If I'm being completely honest, we might be the only other team that's not got worse anywhere. We don't know about goalkeeper. That's the only question mark, I think, for me right now. I think everywhere else we've improved. Huddersfield, they haven't just improved; they've gone up a level or two. I think they're gonna really embarrass a lot of teams this season.
Lee Grant is the third dude we've talked about tonight who I watched play for Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, who is now managing in this league, and I'm not okay with this. It makes me feel really fucking old.
I think that as I said earlier, the league is full of managers who have really good squads on their hands, but are actually lacking experience themselves.
There's a lot of pressure on them.
And there is a lot of pressure. And I think we've seen in the past that managers have had that kind of experience of not having that experience as a manager, but have really good squads and really underperformed with them. And that's the only question mark I have across a lot of these clubs is you can have a really, really good squad, but if that manager isn't creating an environment for them to succeed because they just don't know how to, that's when you'll see them start to drop off or have spells of really poor form. And how you get a team out of that really is dependent on that leadership you have in your management team. So it'll be really interesting to see how the likes of Hunt, Grant do, even Cleverly at the level. He's done really well at the Championship, but he's dropping into League One. There's still a lot of question marks over these kind of guys.
Sorry, it's me, isn't it? I'm
To the top, take us home.
I'm just replying to the wife.
Thought you were
She just
building up
distracted me.
dramatic suspense on.
No,
on
no.
Hill, but no.
She said she's going to bed. That's it. Nothing exciting. Well, no, nothing exciting. Anyway, top of the pile, Stockport County, and I think part of me has Stockport being top of the pile as it's a bit out there because the likes of Huddersfield and Luton are so good, but there's something about there. I did say Huddersfield are the only team for sure that have got better everywhere. Stockport's business this summer has been wonderful, like superb as well. I had them winning the league early on. Ironically, none of us have them winning the league, but the consensus on them is just so high across the board that their average is just higher than everybody else's.
A lot of media outlets have really pipped them to win the league, haven't they?
They have. They're really banging the drum for Stockport, and it's really easy to understand why. I mean, I think in the long run, like I would say, Luton and Huddersfield really mean business with their with the windows they've had and the squads they've got, the managers. But it's so easy to see why Stockport. So many people have Stockport doing so well. I mean, Artie Hoskonen, Teo Odun, Malik Motherseal, Corey O'Keefe, fantastic signings for the level. Dave Challinor is a real asset as manager. He's just signed a new long-term contract, and that's that sort of steadying presence to go. Let's take him on to the next level. I think he's capable, and they've got a really good solid fan base. They've got a superb setup behind the scenes with, I mean, I'll be honest, owners that are prepared to absolutely hurl money at it and not worry about how much they've lost. Like, they've got deep fucking pockets, and they are doing a lot both on and off the field to take the club to the next level. It does seem to be an expensive project, but it does look like it's a sustainable one, which is always the battle. They were excellent last season. I mean, they made us look absolutely horrendous at their place in February, March, whenever it was. I couldn't believe Orient did a number of them in the playoff semi-finals, and Orient were very handily helped out by the referees making several absolute batshit calls. Stockport will be there or thereabouts. I've no doubt they're going up this season. Absolutely no doubt. It will either be autos or they'll absolutely batter whoever it is they meet in the playoff final. I think it is very difficult to say that with such certainty because nothing at this level is that certain. But I think them going up is a safer bet than Luton, for instance, who I've ended up picking as the winner. I think if things go wrong for Luton, it will be an absolute disaster. So I just don't see Stockport failing to get promoted this season.
If Nathan Lowe plays at the level that he was for Walsall the first half of last season, I mean the kid's only 19 years of age. It's a lot of pressure that will be on his shoulders, but I mean that's a hell of a signing in the last 24 hours or so. Alafi is actually a loss. I think I really liked him. He was a bit of headless chicken occasionally, where he just sometimes just run around aimlessly. But I think he was always an awkward one to be up against. He was one of those players that he had enough. Centre half wouldn't want him.
I think there was just about enough input from him that you didn't mind when he had one of those days where you were like, "What the fuck is he on?" Yeah. It was one of those, wasn't it?
But I had them in sort of between second and third, and last minute changed them into second ahead of Luton, just purely on the basis I thought Luton might struggle with sort of overcoming what they've been through the last couple of years, whereas Stockport have just got the momentum, and sure the playoffs was a kick in the teeth for them, but I think they'll bounce right back. And Dave Challinor is you talk about a lot of these younger managers who are unknowns, like Lee Grants and even Cleverleys to a certain extent. But Dave Channing, you know what you're getting. And come January, if they are there or thereabouts, they'll strengthen in a few areas, I've no doubt, and give it a real good go.
I mean, Challoner's up there with Wellens, isn't he, as the top manager in this level? And I hate saying Wellens is up there, but he just is. The guy knows how to win football games. He builds squads well. It's no coincidence that he's been touted as as a guy to bring in to save bad championship teams. I think the only reason we haven't seen Challoner mentioned in the same echelon is just the fact that he so clearly is involved with that project at Stockport. He is in 100%, and I think that's part of the reason why they've been so good over the last few years, is that he really is driving them forwards.
I don't think he's quite as fashionable either when it comes as a manager. Like with Wellens, you always kind of feel like there's going to be a bigger team somewhere that will take him. Whereas with Challoner, it's a little bit more old school.
Yeah,
still very, very effective and knows how to get results. And they're a team that I was expecting to win the playoffs last year when they got in there quite comfortably. To be honest with you, it was a huge surprise they didn't. I think they've done enough business. I think Lowe's the cherry on top of the cake in terms of someone who can come in and score goals. They have actually lost some good players, like Will Collar is always a handy player, and these aren't absolute world beaters, but good. Like Noyle, I mentioned earlier, who went to Mansfield. Even Torre's gone to Bradford. Like there's some good players that they have lost, but I still think
Skipper Horsfall off to Blackpool as well. He's one that I think was a big surprise at the start of the window when he left. But
yeah. But I still think that squad is well too strong to be concerned about them not competing.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, the Stockport owner put an extra £10 million into the club, and then they followed it up by making their record signing. And I think when you compare that to Wallace, for example, who injected £1 billion at the back end of last year, that's the level we're competing with. That's the size of the resources some of these clubs have got, and you've got to expect them to be right up the top end with that kind of.
Don't kid yourself. We're not competing with it, are we?
Well,
we're not competing.
But we're holding our own in the same division.
We are. But the clubs like that are just light years ahead of us. I can't imagine. I can't see us having that kind of money ever.
No.
Unless some absolute giant comes and takes us over, which again I just don't see happening because I think the market for Stevenage is just too small.
And listen, it's the sort of thing that can end up with you struggling for 10 years in non-league as well. So it's a double-edged sword if it doesn't go right.
Exactly.
And that's the big thing is we've probably got 5, 6, 7 teams that have got massive resources and are using them. Only one team can win the league. Only 3 can go up.
Yeah.
That's when you'll see actually when it's go big or go home and you don't win it. That's when I think the opportunities for the likes of us creeping into top halves and playoffs will happen, where some of these teams will drop off because they will start losing money. They won't have parachute payments if they're Luton Town, and they won't have £10 million to splash on a striker if you Wrexham, for example.
If there's one team that know about going into the non-league and taking a long time to get back, it's Stockport County.
Absolutely.
They've been through that in the not too
distant
past, right?
Right. Two years in League Two, second year this year in League One. I have to go National League to Championship in 5 seasons is outrageous.
Yeah. All right.
Fuck Wrexham. Right, let's just quickly recap the 24 down to first. So we've got AFC Wimbledon, Burton, Northampton, and Port Vale dropping. Exeter City, Mansfield Town, Bradford, Doncaster, Peterborough, and Stevenage up to 15th. Rotherham, Lincoln, Wigan, Orient, Barnsley, Reading, and then Wycombe and Bolton Wanderers just missing the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, we've got Cardiff, Blackpool, Plymouth, and Luton. And then going up in the autos, Huddersfield Town and Stockport County. That is our 1 to 24. There you go.
How many are we getting right, and how many is Pat specifically getting right?
Well, I would say we averaged 2 or 3 right a season, which I don't think is actually that bad.
That's not too bad.
I see so many others that are getting none right every year.
Yeah.
I would be better than Lee Hendry if nothing else.
Who isn't? You could vomit on a page and it would have more sense. But we'll revisit it at the end of the year and see how well or not we did, or well or not Pat specifically did. Anyway, everybody, that's it for now. It's an hour and 40 minutes. It was a long haul. Well done if you made it all the way through. We've only just made it. Reach out to us, talk to us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook. We don't use Instagram. YouTube. Chuck some YouTube comments in. I should do that like and subscribe thing, shouldn't I? It feels dirty doing it, but I'll say it. I'll say it this time. I'm probably not going to say it again, but you know.
Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that.
Nick, you've got a role at the end of the
There you go. Nick could be the guy encouraging you to do all the typical things. Just doesn't feel it. Makes me feel dirty, begging for it. Otherwise, have a cracking week, and we'll see you next Monday live at 8:30 on YouTube. Might see if I can push it to Twitter as well. You can sort of do those things. I used to be able to before Elon fucked everything up. Let's see if that still works. Anyway, up the borough.
Woo!
You'll get to see Pat Woo now. That's great. That used to be a special thing just for us. You all get it now.
That's the sort of thing that we can get Patreon for.
I've said for years that I'm going to do a supercut of Pat's woos. I'm going to let this whole season go, and then I'm just going to put a compilation of Pat's woos.
To a song,
or if anyone could tell the
difference. No, I'm not going to do it to a song or something. It's just you're just going to get woo, 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 woo all the way until it ends.
Sell them as a ringtone, sorted.
Oh, maybe an alarm clock. I'm not sure about a ringtone.
A really cheap police car.
We'll sell it for 99. we'll make it into an MP3 and we'll sell it for 99p and make £2. £2 out of it. I'm gonna stop this now. See you later, everyone. I've clicked